Hey, how's everybody doing? We want to welcome you to the 2-6 Mix. This is our first show that we're putting together for the 2-6 Mix, the first of many. And we're kind of putting it together because Election Day is approaching. And from what we hear, there's a lot of people who need a lot of information on how to vote, where to vote, and even if they can vote. So, what we've done is put this show together and asking some questions and interviewing is Miss Asia Montgomery. She's the executive producer of the 2-6 Mix. You'll see a lot of her. And she's the one that's going to put this show together and make sure that it does what it's supposed to do. Um, how you feeling today, Asia?
I'm feeling all right. Ready to
Good.
do this interview, give people more information on the process so everyone can be, a little more educated on voting.
Sounds good. Now she's the college graduate, so I'm gonna get on out the way and let her do what she does. But before we do that, we have a special guest with us for our very first show, and it's Miss Vikki Andrews. How are you, Miss Andrews?
I'm good. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and especially on the first show. I'm excited.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We're excited to have you. And I knew with the first show and on this specific topic, elections coming up, you were the perfect person to get in touch with. So what I'm going to do is thank you again, ma'am, for your time today.
It's
And
my
I'm
pleasure.
and I'm going to get on out the way. Asia, go ahead and do what you do.
Hey, Miss Vicky.
How
So
you
I'm
doing?
just, if you could just give everybody a little rundown of like your background and what makes you so well versed on the election process and voting and everything like that.
Okay. Well, I the last few things I've done is I've been involved in politics for a long time. I started in Cumberland County, probably in 2006. I have been the campaign manager for two statewide elections. Um, and I've also served as a precinct chair. I've served as a Cumberland County Democratic Party chairman for 3 years. I served as a district chairman for 2 years. I was on this part of the North Carolina Democratic Party, the state organization. I held a couple of offices there. Right now, I am working on a congressional campaign. I'm a senior campaign advisor to a congressional campaign. So I served on the Cumberland County Board of Elections for a year, so I guess that's probably why.
Very well versed. Very well versed. We're just gonna ask a few questions to give everybody that, especially young people that don't really know too much about voting, just a little bit more information on the process. So just answer them to the best of your ability, and all the information will be shared in the caption under the video. So for to start, what are important dates to note for this upcoming election?
Okay, so what I'm going to give you are the dates for North Carolina. Um, and so if you're from another state or voting in another state, they may not all be applicable to those states because I don't have access to that information. So if that's okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Most definitely.
Okay, so the last day to register to vote just passed. It was Friday. However, North Carolina, you can register and vote on the same day. And to do that, you have to provide proof of residency, which means you have to be able to show like a bill that's in your name, not your parents' name, that show that you are a resident of North Carolina for 30 days in the county where you're trying to register. And you can do that on the same day. And you can do that on the same day during early voting only. So if you don't do it, if you didn't do it by Friday and you don't do it during early vote, you will not be able to vote in this election, November 3rd. So that's how you can do that. Of course, you have to be 18 years or older. They're not going to ask you for your birth certificate. They're not going to ask you, you don't have to show ID. That was a law that was changed. So you don't have to show your driver's license, but you have to show proof of residency, and they're going to ask you what your birthday is, and then they're going to check to see, make sure that you are at least 18 years old. That's how that works.
Okay, thank you. So you said they're not going to ask for your ID, but for someone who doesn't have a driver's license and is trying to, or a driver's license, or doesn't have a bill, or what are some other forms of documentation is what I'm trying to ask that you can bring when you're trying to register for the same day?
Okay, so you can show you want some kind of current ID. So you might have a state ID, which is not a driver's license, but it has its current. So that means you've already shown your identification. You can have a current, like I said, a current utility bill, a bank statement, a government check, a paycheck, or some other kind of government document. That's what you need. And so that they can, because the requirement is that you are a resident of the county you're trying to register in for at least 30 days, and that would show that. So that's what they're looking for as evidence.
Okay. And I know you sent information earlier about the voting places, about how long are they open for the ones in Cumberland County specifically?
Okay, so let me go back to the other thing is, if you are registering for the first time, if this is your first time, you will have to show, you will be asked for some identification the first time, something with your picture on it, okay? But if you voted before, you won't have, they're just gonna ask you your name and where you live, and they'll look it up from there, okay? All right, so now ask me that question again.
The duration that the voting places in
Okay.
Cumberland County specifically are open.
So 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Okay, that's all voting places, 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Okay.
And so early voting is getting ready. Do you want to go ahead, or you want to ask questions? How you want to do it?
Go for it. Go right on
Okay, so
ahead.
early voting in North Carolina is going to start on Thursday, which is October the 15th. It goes through October 31st. Okay, and so each county has different numbers of early voting locations. So in Cumberland County, there are 12, and I sent you a list of where they are. So that
That
information
will
is
also be
available.
included.
Okay,
Yes.
and so all of those locations are open from 6:30 to I'm sorry, I told you the wrong times for that. That's 6:30 to 7:30. That's election. That's November 3rd. I told you the wrong times for that, for the early vote. The early vote hours are different, and I provided that as well. But you can vote in any early voting site in the county those days during the early vote. So even if you live, let's say you live by E. Smith High School, but if you happen to be in Spring Lake and you want to vote, you can vote at the Spring Lake Rec Center, which is an early vote location. So during the early vote, you can vote anywhere. Now, election day is different. You have to vote at your polling location. That's very, very important. If you don't do that, you will still be able to vote, but it makes it different how it's counted. And so you want to make sure that if you're not sure where to vote, go to one of those 12 early voting locations during the early vote period. And on election day, you have to go to your designated polling site, and it's easy to find. You can go on the North Carolina Board of Elections website and pull it down. All you need is your birth date and the county and your name, and it will pull it down, tell you exactly where to vote. And so it's very important that you vote on election day at the designated spot you're supposed to vote.
Okay. Additionally, what are some other ways outside of going to polling locations that people can vote during this election?
Okay, so you can vote by mail or absentee. If you listened at all to anything anywhere, it's like the big thing on the news. So you can do that. You can request that ballot and get that, and that way you don't have to go. So particularly if you are out of state or not going to be in state to vote during the designated in person during the designated voting period, you can request your absentee ballot. And then you can vote that way. And that's really easy. Again, you can go online to the Board of Elections website and pull that down, print it out, fill it out, send it in, and they will send you a ballot, an absentee ballot. And then you can then follow the directions on how to complete that and mail it in, or you can take it in to the board, Board of Elections up until election day.
So we kind of talked about voting and polling locations and other ways to vote if you're not trying to go in person or if you can't or unable to. So since we talked about the process, can we talk about what kind of resources are available for people that maybe aren't really well versed in politics? Is there anything like websites that have information on each candidate, etc.?
Okay, so again, you have this information as well. And the websites that I'm going to give you now, these are all nonpartisan. So I did not give you any specific for one party or the other. They're all nonpartisan. That means they provide you information for all candidates, and regardless of the party that candidate is affiliated with. And so you can start with, and I'll just list them for you, and you can pick whichever one you like. As ncvoter.org is one. On that one, you can get your registration status. It will give you early voting locations, your election day poll, which is what I talked about earlier, and a sample of your ballot, because everybody in your county doesn't necessarily get the same ballot, because some of the candidates are determined by where you live, that you can't vote for all candidates. All the major ones, president, senator, all that you can vote for, but the local ones down to county commissioners, for example, in this election, everybody doesn't get to vote for the same county commissioners. It depends on where you live. So there's another one. Of course, I said the State Board of Elections website, which is ncsbe.gov. You can do NC Voter Guide, and that has voter guides. That has actual guides for local and state voter guides, where they've talked to candidates and asked them questions, and they provided answers, and you'll get to see what those candidates say about the questions they were asked. The League of Women Voters is vote411.org. And so they have the same kinds of information. DemocracyNorthCarolina.org. So I say this because when I say Democracy North Carolina, people think that means Democrat. It does not. It is a nonpartisan organization. That's why it's called Democracy North Carolina. And they have a voter's guide out right now where they have asked each candidate, questions about, they give you a little blurb about who they are and their identification information. Then they've asked each candidate questions. If the candidate did not provide an answer to the response for the answers, then it says in there, no response was received. So no one was left out, and all candidates that will appear on the ballots are listed in that voter guide. And then commoncause.org is a nonpartisan grassroots organization. They do a lot with Democracy North Carolina, but they're not partisan. So those are just some that you can go to. And then I'm sure if you listen to the radio or anything online, you'll see others. There are other groups, because there's a lot of interest in this presidential election this year. So lots of groups are trying to provide information about voting process and candidates.
Is there any additional information, maybe a question I didn't ask or something you didn't cover that you would like to let everyone know? If it's important that everyone get engaged in the process, which I'm so thrilled that you're doing this, and it's important. Every vote counts. There are elections where people have won by one vote. So don't let anyone tell you that your vote doesn't count. Your vote counts. It's important. If it wasn't, people wouldn't be trying, from some perspectives, trying to suppress a vote. That's, some people believe that. So every vote counts. If you don't vote, your voice is not heard, and so then you don't have a say in what happens. And so, for this election and the results of this election will have an impact for a long, long time to come. So it's important. I hope that everyone who's eligible to vote uses the opportunity and exercises their right to vote, because it is it's the bedrock of our democracy. I appreciate that. I really greatly appreciate, and I'm very thankful that you were able to take the time out of your day to come and talk to us about it and help educate people on this process, especially young people, not only in Cumberland County or North Carolina, but all over. I'm sure everyone else other places outside North Carolina are gonna see this stream and hopefully be a little bit more educated and more aware of the process and not be as scared to, put that foot forward to actually vote. So that's what a lot of people, especially young people, 60 and under, have an issue with, is how to get started, how being informed about this stuff. So I just want to say thank you again, and you definitely informed me about a few more things that I wasn't really sure about. So I feel a lot more comfortable.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Can I just say
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go to a polling site, and you have a question, there are people there that are there to help protect you. They're voter protection, they're nonpartisan. You can ask questions, but never leave a polling site without casting a vote. If you end up at the wrong polling site for some reason and aren't able to go to your correct polling site, ask to cast a provisional ballot so that you have something in the system. Don't leave without doing that. Because, you know, if you go to the wrong one, they say, oh, no, you're supposed to be across town. You say, well, I don't have time to get there. Ask for that provisional ballot so that you can still vote and make your voice heard.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you again for inviting me.
Of course. Thanks, Miss Vikki.